Have you or someone you know recently gotten engaged and are now looking for a celebrant for your big day? Well, look no further, because I am a registered marriage celebrant servicing the southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales areas. Not only do I take care of all the paperwork, but I focus on creating a personalised ceremony that reflects you as a couple. So whether you want a ceremony that's fun and exciting, if you want a bit of a tearjerker, or maybe a bit of both, get in touch by heading to therollingcelebrant.com or look me up on Facebook or Instagram at _rolling_celebrant, and let's discuss how to make your wedding day one that you've always dreamt of, as long as no stairs are involved. Okay, you ready? Let's do it. You're listening to Chats from a Chair, with me, Nick Dempsey, coming to you from my wheelchair. I speak with people who have a great story to tell, portraying the human potential, often in the face of adversity. Check out the Instagram page at chatsfromachair_podcast and let me know who you think I should have on and have a chat with. Also, don't forget to hit follow on whatever platform you're listening to this. But for now, sit back and enjoy this episode. Coming up in this episode, I speak with NRL superstar Xavier Coates. We'll have a chat about his pathway into the NRL, tough decisions he's had to make in his career, like leaving the Broncos and going to the Melbourne Storm, and also the change from playing for PNG to then across to the Kangaroos. So stay tuned for all of that and more. G'day and welcome back to another episode of Chats from a Chair. Today I'm with NRL royalty, Xavier Coates, mate. Thanks for coming on and having a chat.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
First thing we need to address, I'm guessing you call rugby league footy.
Yeah.
And I don't. So I address it as rugby. So anyway along the way, that's what I mean. When I was saying,
easy as.
Yeah.
Easy as.
I'm from down, so you're probably used to that, being down in Melbourne now anyway.
Yeah,
no. Yeah.
Well, I'm used to footy being AFL now.
Yeah,
pretty
exactly.
Much so.
Yeah, that's what I am.
Yeah,
So, yeah. All right, sweet. This is going to be a podcast of us arguing about what's footy. That's
I like it. Let's do it.
No, mate, obviously I want to get into your career you've had so far and so many of the cool things you've done. But first off, tell us about your upbringing and what family life was like for you growing up.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky. I grew up in Palm Beach on the Gold Coast, 4221 local. So,
mate.
Living right next to the beach. I used to wake up every morning, head to the beach, and went to school at Marymount in Burleigh. So, pretty good upbringing. Played my local footy at Currumbin Eagles in Currumbin, and it was pretty cruisy upbringing for me. I have 6 brothers, 2 sisters. So
Big family.
Pretty big family. So we're all fighting for food in the household, and we're all sharing similar rooms and bunk beds and crashing with each other. So it was a good upbringing for me. A lot of family members, a lot of good memories, and a lot of mates that I'm still friends with to this day. So.
Yeah, well, growing up in Palm Beach, you can't really beat that, can you?
No, you can't. Well, I was like 200-300 metres from the beach, so I was up there pretty much every single day. So a bit different lifestyle now, living in Melbourne.
That would be a bit of a change, wouldn't it?
A bit cold down there, and it can get pretty bipolar, the weather. But I enjoy coming back up here whenever I get a couple of days off.
I was going to say, no wonder you're back up here over your holidays.
My whole holidays has been here, pretty much so. So
I think I actually spotted you at Tally one day. Don't blame him being
always
up here.
There, always at the beach.
You see a lot of the footy boys, AFL and NRL getting up here during the holidays.
Yeah, well, you can't beat the Gold Coast. I feel like it's the best place to sort of live and sort of have holidays. So
well, I'm one of those annoying people that have moved here over the last few years. So
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
don't blame you at all.
I'm not leaving now. I'm becoming a local. But so you've got a Papua New Guinean background, is that right?
Yeah.
Your mum is from Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, mum's from Papua New Guinea.
Have you sort of learnt or immersed yourself in that culture a bit too, and learn a bit about that?
Yeah, she's always tried to teach me growing up, but it's been a bit difficult as well, just living on the Gold Coast and not being back in Papua New Guinea. I feel like that's where you learn more, is when you immerse yourself into that sort of culture. But she's always tried to teach me growing up my culture and my identity. And I was lucky enough back in 2019 when I went into the PNG Kumals camp. I played for them when I was 18 years of age, and the boys were so helpful with helping to sort of see who I really was and my identity, and just helping immerse myself back into that culture that I didn't really have in the sort of upbringing I had on the Gold Coast. So that was pretty cool in a way. And I'm still learning it. I'm still very raw with my identity, but It's something that I'm slowly sort of coming to terms with, and I'm learning about. And I had a great teammate back at Melbourne Storm when he was there, Justin Olam, who helped me out heaps. And back when I was at the Brisbane Broncos, I had David Mead, who's a PNG Kummel as well, which was really cool for myself to sort of see their sort of upbringing and sort of them helping me out with who I am. So something I'm still learning, but it's pretty cool for me to sort of see.
Yeah, it'd be cool because obviously, yeah, like you said, you've had that, I guess, typical Aussie upbringing by the beach, but then you've still got this whole other side to your family and other side of culture that would be so different but so cool to try to immerse yourself in and learn. It'd be, yeah, like you said, a learning experience, but it'd be so cool to have that side of you as well.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty cool. Like I was born in Port Moresby up in Papua New Guinea, and I come down really young, but I've been back to the village that I was from. So I'm from Karama, I'm from Gulf Province. It's sort of along like a coastline, and I get the nickname 600. A lot of people call me 600 because that's the sort of highway you take to get to my village. So that's where the nickname comes from. And they call me Karu as well. So Karu is pretty much like when a Samoan person says Uso or a Tongan person says Toko. It's like that's like what it is for me. I'm Karu. I'm from sort of the land of Gulf. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, okay, no, that's sick. That's Papua New Guinean background. I don't know much about it at all. So no, that's sick. But so growing up, you and all your 100 siblings, you guys, you all into sports growing up, were you? Always pretty active?
Yeah, we're all into sport. My older siblings, they were actually into hockey, field hockey. So Dad bought me my first hockey stick. I was actually going to play hockey for Burleigh, and I used to always go watch my dad and older siblings play, and I used to play around with the younger kids, learning sort of hockey. And then all my mates back at school, I remember there was a massive footy tournament that the boys were playing just out on the back oval, and we weren't supposed to play tackle, but we were playing tackle. And
of course,
I was like, I just fell in love with it. Hey, all the boys were so competitive and just wanted to score tries. And that's all they were talking about when they would come to school after the weekends. They played for Burleigh Bears. And I went back to Dad and I said, can I go play for Burleigh Bears? And he's like, you live in Palm Beach. We'll go to the local one there. So he put me at Currumbin Eagles, and then I fell in love with that club and fell in love with rugby league. And that's sort of how it all came about. So it was pretty cool. But it would have been funny to see if I started playing field hockey, how far I would have went. I don't think I would have went very far with that.
Would have started tackling people on the field.
I know.
Got suspended pretty quick.
Yeah, I think so.
No, it is a typical, like, young boys growing up just want to hurt each other, don't you? Just tackle each other and stuff. Yeah. Then that competitive side comes out.
Yeah, all the young kids at my school, they were very competitive in rugby league. So brought the best out of everyone. It was pretty funny.
You are so influenced by just what people play around you, aren't you? Like, me growing up down south, everyone played AFL, played footy. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to play. But it's just one of those things. What the chat is at school, that's what you want to do. And
exactly. Well, since my time being at Melbourne, that's all I've sort of heard about is AFL. So I find myself just stuck to the TV, watching AFL, watching the Melbourne Demons. They're my team.
Oh, they're your team.
So they're in sort of the same facility as we are, and we train in the same sort of gym as them. And I didn't know anything about AFL, and I remember a person come over to me. His name's Clayton Oliver.
Oh, yeah.
Come over and started chatting to me, and I actually didn't know who he was. And,
really?
He come up to me. He's like, you come down from Queensland, haven't you? This and that. Like, he watches NRL religiously.
Right.
And I didn't know who he was, and I was just chatting to him. Anyway, I went back and asked the boys, and they're like, Clayton Oliver, mate, he's one of the best players in the AFL. How do you not know who he is? And I was like, man, I've got to start watching it. Then I started watching it, and I fell in love with it. And I was like, man, this is awesome.
It's one of those games that, obviously, speaking to people up here with it, it seems so chaotic until you sort of understand what it is.
Well, it's a live game that you have to go and watch. You can't. I feel like you get more of a love for the game if you go and watch it live. Whereas if you're on TV, you can't see all the players running around and getting into position and how much meters they track to actually get to the ball. Yeah,
there's a lot more to it than
there's
what you see in the
square. Whereas, it's it was something pretty cool to go there and watch the game live and then fall in love with another game, which I used to bag when I was a kid, to be honest. It used to be like NRL versus AFL back at school.
That's
used to be
exactly
like, NRL, they do way more. They do this much more contact. They do this. And then now I'm like, mate, AFL players are something special. There's some athletes there.
I'm still having that argument with people like here. That's sick. But so you got into athletics growing up, is that right? Yeah. So how'd you come into that?
Well, I think I was about 10 years of age, and you used to do your school track and field carnivals, and I remember doing like the 100 meters and ended up going pretty well, and then ended up going to the next meet, which was districts, done well in districts, then went to regionals, then went to state, and then ended up making it to nationals for 100 meters and long jump. I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, I hadn't trained for it or anything. Then ended up doing pretty good at the nationals, sort of carnival. Was up in Darwin, and then after I'd done that competition, Dad sort of come to me and he said, "Oh, like, do you want to take this sort of seriously? It looks like you got a bit of a talent here." And then I sort of thought to myself, I was like, "Oh, it'd be pretty cool to see what it'd be like if I actually done a bit of training and how far I could actually progress with it." And ended up finding a really good coach in Tony Fairweather, who, whenever I get a bit of time off from my footy, my NRL sort of career, I always come back to Tony and he helps me out with a lot of things. And, coming back just to refresh the mind with everything that he sort of taught me as a young kid. And he's actually helped me out a lot. I've had a fair few hamstring injuries that have taken a bit of a toll on me mentally and also taken time away from me on the field. So I've come back to see Tony and he's helped me out with that a lot and got me back out on the field. And he's been a massive mentor for me growing up. So it's always good to sort of meet people like that who's always in your corner, always supporting you, and he's someone that's always done that. So that's sort of how my athletics career sort of came about, and I sort of had to stop it when I was 15 years of age because NRL got pretty serious, or rugby league got pretty serious, and I sort of wanted to make that a career. But I feel like you always need a bit of speed, and no matter what sport you play, whenever you go back and do a bit of track and field training, you can always come back and it will be a massive asset to your game having speed. So
it's one of those things, once you get to that level, I'm assuming it's those little percentages that can set you apart from the others.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Obviously everyone's very talented, but if you're growing that extra little thing someone else isn't, I mean, anyone's watched you play, you're pretty quick, so it looks like it's helped.
Yeah, it definitely has helped.
No, I was doing a little bit of research into your coach too, and it looks like some of the stuff you were saying, philosophies are about, he obviously trains and tries to teach people to be fast, but sort of the group is a real community and family as well. And it's sort of that bigger picture than what just athletics or sport is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, is that something you think you've carried on into your NRL as well?
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And like I said, like wherever I go in my career, he's always there supporting me. And that whole athletics group that I go back and train with, they always support me as well. So something really special for myself. And whenever I go back there, people think I'm quick. When I go back and train with them, they flog me.
Do they? Yeah.
I get smashed.
Humble you real quick.
Yeah, humble me real quick. So I feel like it's good for me as well. I go back there. I feel like if you train with the best, they bring you up to their level. So whenever I go back there, I might get flogged. They're a lot quicker than me, but they're really influential in sort of making me a better sort of person and make me a better athlete as well. So it's pretty cool to go back there, but they definitely humble me pretty quickly.
You just tell them to run at you then, if they do?
Oh, yeah. They'll probably still run over me. There's some big boppers there.
Yeah, true. So you had to make the call then to focus on your NRL or rugby league. What was that pathway for you then to get into the actual NRL?
It was actually it was pretty tough for myself. I wouldn't say tough, but it was hard in the sense that I would trial for rep teams. I used to think making rep teams was how you got to the NRL.
Yeah.
And I used to trial for every rep team, and I used to always get told, "Nah, like, we're sorry, like you're not big enough, or you're too skinny, or you can't tackle." And people still give me crap for it these days about not tackling, but oh well. But I couldn't make any of the rep teams, and I used to think that was the be and end all. And I remember getting to the age of 15, and I had to sort of pick out of NRL and track and field. And I sort of told my junior coach at the time, Matt Guy, he played for the Melbourne Storm, played over 200 plus games for Melbourne Storm. One of the best players for the Melbourne Storm. He was my junior coach at Crumman Eagles, and I told him, I'm probably going to look to do athletics. Like, I see a bit more of a future with that. Like, I can't make any rep teams here.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to make it very far in NRL. And then he said, have you ever thought about just playing one season? You don't have to trial for rep teams. You can just play for fun, just the fun of the game. Play with your mates. You don't have to think about anything else. Just come to train and enjoy your time.
Take that pressure off.
Yeah, take the pressure off, which I feel like a lot of kids these days, they have that pressure to sort of perform, and you have to make these teams, and you have to be in this system to make the NRL, when in reality, you just got to have fun, and you have to, enjoy just being around your mates, and you can work hard while having fun. You got to take that pressure away from it, and that's what they ended up doing for me. And I just played 1 year for fun, and ended up getting picked up by the Broncos. So it was pretty cool because we had a grand final. It was at Crumman. It was the under-16s grand final, and we're versing Burleigh Bears. And Tommy Dearden was in our team at the time. He's a pretty good NRL player, and the Broncos came to watch him play, and then ended up having a pretty good grand final day.
Just timed it well.
Yeah, timed it well. And then they come and spoke to me after it, spoke to my dad, and then they sort of offered me a bit of a sort of way to get into the system and a bit of a contract in the under-20s, and then that's how I sort of made my way through, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, sometimes it's just right place, right time, isn't it? And you can, like you said, you can have all the right systems going on and everything, but you take that pressure off. It's sport is so mental
Yeah.
as well. Like if you're putting pressure on yourself, you second guess yourself a bit.
Yeah.
You can take that off, and that's when you might play your best footy or whatever it is. And yeah, something like that can happen. But yeah, that's interesting. You weren't a sort of highly touted junior or anything that was looked at for a while. You just timed it well. And
yeah, I know. It was like that's what I thought. I thought you had to make all these rep teams to be in the NRL, and I still see it today with kids coming through the sort of system, and they won't make a rep team, and they just get really down and out about themselves. And like, it's pretty cool making the rep teams. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
like, you're an awesome player if you make the rep teams, but like when you get later into your career, like 16, 17, like everyone sort of it becomes an even playing field, and that's what people don't realize. Everyone develops differently, and you can't help that. That's just genetics. And I was a late developer myself, and my siblings are the same. They're going to be late developers, and they love playing rugby league as well, and they're finding it a bit hard at the moment as well. But I tell them to this day, I said, don't worry, you'll catch up. Everything will even out. And I think, recruitment, they look at different things as well. I thought it was just about like scoring the flashy tries, but they look at a lot of different things, like when you're sort of coming up, and that's something that I want to sort of tell younger kids. Like, you don't have to make the rep teams, you don't have to be this flashy player. You can do little things right and create really good habits, so that when you get up the sort of rankings, the habits will sort of come to tuition, and it would just be a sort of instant thing that comes to mind when you're on the field. So it's pretty cool sort of how I sort of came about, but I wasn't like the flashy player growing up.
Yeah, well, it's good you can use your platform now as well to then spread that message and give people. You see it in all sports where people are late bloomers or whatever it might be, just are overlooked for whatever reason, but then they do get their chance finally and absolutely kill it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sick.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, like I said, you were still picked up pretty young, but it was an interesting sort of pathway.
Yeah.
But then you were able to make your debut in 2019 for the Broncos.
Yeah.
Has try on debut as well. How was that?
That was, I was so nervous when I got to the stadium. I remember we flew down to Sydney. I had roommate Alex Glenn, who's a really well-known Broncos player, and he was my roommate. So he helped me out a lot, sort of in the preparation and the build-up into the game. And I remember I was really nervous because I played under 18s that year. So I played Melbourne Cup on the Gold Coast for Tweed, and then I think I played for Papua New Guinea as well against Samoa. And then the next step up was playing NRL, and I was so nervous. I got to the sheds, and I was just shaking in the sheds, and I was sweating really bad. And then our sort of manager come over to me, Adam Walsh, and he said, mate, like, just pop the headphones on. I'll put meditation on so that you can just sort of relax. And I remember before I put the headphones on, I heard the whole crowd outside. The stadium was sort of shaking, and I started shaking as well. I was like, there's that many people out there. I've only played in front of sort of probably like 1,000 people at once, and now it's going to be probably like 10, 15,000 people out there. So I was pretty scared. And then he put the headphones on. I started meditating, trying to relax. I couldn't really. Yeah. And then I remember running out. I was so nervous. And then when I got the first touch to the ball, got my first run in, I was like, I'm pretty good. And then, I ended up scoring a try, which was pretty cool. I should have scored a second one, but it got disallowed. Oh, shit. And then I think I let in 3 tries after that, which not too many people know about, but they sort of watched just my highlight. But I let in 3 tries, and I was like, oh no, please don't let us lose this game, otherwise I'm going to get hammered in video. But we ended up winning it, and then I think I played 2 more games after that. And then that was my sort of year, and then they wanted to bulk me up a bit. I was pretty skinny. Right. So they took me out for the rest of the year, and me and Tommy did, and got taken out of the games, and they ended up bulking us up and making us a bit stronger for the following year, which was pretty cool. Yeah, right. No, I'll edit out the bit about your missed tackles. That's fine. Please do me a favour there. No, that's so silly. You would have been, like you said, such a build-up, so much hype around yourself and all that sort of thing to score a try and just settle all those nerves. Are you still a nervous player now, or you're right now? Oh, I still get nervous. Playing now, it's just learning to deal with it a bit better. And I feel like that comes down to your preparation. If you get your preparation right and you do the reps and training, I feel like you're covered. Like, you're always going to get nervous. Dad always told me, well, if you're nervous, it means something to you. So whenever I'm nervous, I know that it means something to me, but I know that I've also done all the reps and training. I've ticked all the boxes, done all the preparation right. So there's no need for me to come in with a sort of negative mindset. I'll still be nervous, but I'm also pretty eager to get out there and sort of show what I can show. Do you have sort of your pre-game routine you have now, or do you just sort of, are you a cruisy one, or pre-game you have your steps at certain times before the game to follow? I'm pretty cruisy, but I'll always go out for brekkie with a few of my teammates. I'm rooming with Trent Liero, so I go out for brekkie with him, and a few of the boys actually go. Harry Grant, Tyron Wishart usually come for a coffee, and after that I'll go for a walk. depending if it's a night game. If it is a night game, I'll sleep pretty much from midday till about 3 or 4 o'clock.
Right.
So a couple of hours there, so that when I wake up, I'll have a coffee, have a bite to eat, and then I'll be ready to go. So
Yeah, okay. Always wondered that with night games, like how because it seems so late.
it's so late. So it's like, what do you do with your day? And you don't want to sort of sit down on the lounge and play video games and this and that. So I was like, I'll go for a walk, stretch the legs out, have a bit of a stretch, and then have a bit of a sleep. And then when I wake up, I'll be energized and
build into the game.
Yeah, after the game's done, though, it's pretty hard to fall asleep because you've slept the whole day and you've had so much caffeine that you're wide awake. So you don't fall asleep until 4 or 5 in the morning. So
yeah, shit, right off the next day then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then in 2020, like you said, you were able to build into a sort of a fairly solid season that year, and you were picked in the Origin team that year. And was that 2020? That was the year they were called the worst team in history. Whatever it was. Yeah. What was the feeling like in camp going in and having that sort of? Was it Gallen? I think said it.
Yeah, I think it might have been Gallen or someone like that.
First, of getting picked for your first Origin team. How was that? You would have grown up watching Origin in
Yeah,
Queensland?
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I remember Wednesday nights we used to sit around the TV. We used to order Domino's and we used to sit there and get lollies from Coles, and we used to watch Greg Inglis. He was a machine back in Origin time. And, it was pretty cool for me to get named into the squad. I thought I was just going to be in the squad. I remember I was up at Sunny Coast, and I was there with a few boys. I was with Herbie Farnworth, Tommy Dearden, Kobe Hetherington, Reece Walsh was there as well, Brendan Piakura. We're all there at Sunny Coast just having a good time. And I remember I was out in the porch, I was fishing, and then the boys were like, oh, you need to answer your phone. And it come up, and it was like a no number because I didn't have the number saved, and it was Kevy Walters. And he's like, the boy's like, oh, it's Kevy Walters. Like, pick it up. I was like, no, I'm not picking it up. You guys are pranking me at the moment.
Yeah.
So I let it ring, didn't pick up. And then they're like, no, you got to call it back. I was like, no, you boys are pranking me. And then it called again. And then I was like, oh, just pick it up just in case. Kevy Walters was there, picked it up. Hey, mate, like, so-and-so, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, good. He's like, oh, we're looking to pick you in the Queensland Origin team. What do you think about that? I'm like, oh, I'm up at the Sunny Coast. I'm having a couple of beers up here, but I'm keen to go.
Yeah.
And he said, yep, well, pack your bags. You're ready to go. Come into camp.
Straight in.
Yeah, pretty much straight in. So it was a couple of days after that, went into camp, and then Wayne Bennett was the coach. He ended up being the coach, but Kevy done the call-in and a bit of like the recruitment stuff. So went into camp. I thought I was just going to be in the squad. I played 15 NRL games, so not much at all.
Yeah, for a young career.
Yeah, really young career and young player. And ended up having a couple of sessions, got sprayed in a couple of sessions. Wayne was spraying me. We had done a couple of con games and I wasn't up to scratch. And I was like, oh, man, these boys are too good. Like, this is going to be a hard team to sort of make or sort of stay in the squad. And then after one of the sessions, Wayne came up to me and he said, mate, I'm looking to pick you in the first game. And I was like starstruck. I was like, holy heck.
You've just been abusing me,
I was like, I was just getting sprayed because I wasn't doing good in the con games and the boys were tearing me up. And then now I'm playing. I'm like, oh, this is... holy heck, this is like a whirlwind of emotions.
True.
And I was like, oh, I'd love that. And then he's like, all right, call your family up, let them know. And it was pretty tough because it was like COVID period as well. So there was only like a certain amount of people allowed at the games. And ended up playing that game, and it was pretty cool, hey, because I was like, idolized these people that I was going up against growing up. Like, I remember playing NRL. I thought that was cool. And then now I'm playing against the best of the best. You got like the Addo Cars. You got you got like Nathan Cleary in there, the Keary, like all these like crazy good players. And I'm like, I'm going up against these boys.
What am I doing here? Yeah,
like, there's Jack White in there. I'm like, Jack White. I remember watching him growing up.
Oh, that'd be
it was pretty cool for myself. But then I was like, oh, now they're my enemies. I'll go up against them. This is gonna be tough. And then we ended up winning that game. Lost the second game. And then I was out for the third game. My groin sort of pulled up not too good. And then the boys ended up getting the job done. And then, had a pretty good celebration after that.
Yeah, I could imagine
that.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool for a 20-year-old to experience that. Or 19-year-old. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That would have been nuts. Yeah, like I said, going up against people that were your idols and the best of the best, that would have been nuts. But how was it being under Wayne Bennett? Like, you hear so much about him being this amazing coach and has the results to show it, but would see something like you noticed different about him, or like did he address the whole worst team ever, or how'd that go?
No, he didn't bring it up. He was just like, he's got this aura about him because he's been there and done that with certain teams. So whatever he says goes. It's like everyone respects him because they know what he's done already. So whatever he says, you just do. And he's really calm. He has a really calm mannerism. Will never raise his voice. And we had like this. Joshy Kerr was in our team. He was in the squad. He didn't end up playing, but we call him Wayne Bennett's love child because they got together so well. And Joshy Kerr would bring the energy. Wayne would get up and about, and he would love it. And on TV, you never see Wayne really smiling, and he was smiling all the time in camp. And it was such a good time, and the environment that the boys built around that 2020 group was something really special. And I loved being a part of it. And I was like, man, I want to feel this every single year. So that's sort of the reason why I want to make the Origin team every year, to be a part of that and to play for the Queensland community. And it's something so much more than rugby league, and it's just representing the community that you grew up in. And it was a pretty cool time for me back in 2020.
It's a pretty special thing. Like, as someone growing up, I watched no rugby league at all. I was all AFL. But same thing, every Wednesday night when there was Origin on, we'd sit down and watch it. And I was a Blues man, and I hated when you won. So, but yeah, it's something about it, isn't it? It's so sick. So I can't imagine being inside those four walls and being part of it. Especially as I said, someone that grew up idolising them. It would have been such a cool experience. Yeah,
it was definitely, it was really cool. And like you said, you watch it Wednesday night, you come into school the next day on Thursday, and all the boys are giving each other shit, and Queensland won, or New South Wales won, this and that. Like, it was such a good time. Like, I remember just being a kid, and we used to go out on the back paddock, used to play tackle footy again, New South Wales versus Queensland, your mates are going at it, and it was just like, it was such a good time. And to look back at it and think, like, that was me as a kid, and now I'm pulling on a Queensland jersey versus New South Wales, like in the real life thing. You're like, man, this is something pretty special.
There's kids watching you and pretending to be you in the backyard.
That's something I'm still coming to terms with, man. It's pretty cool to look at it. Like, I get sent so many clips of kids scoring in corners and saying like, look, I'm Xavier Coates. And I'm like, man, that used to be me as a kid. I used to go in the park and used to try to put on a big right-hand fan and say, there's Greg Inglis, Greg Inglis. And now the kids are doing it about me. I'm like, man,
it'd be so wild, wouldn't it?
It's pretty cool, yeah.
How do you sort of try to stay present with that happening, or do you try to accept it, embrace it, or is it embarrass you? Like, how do you handle it?
I wouldn't say it embarrasses me. It's pretty cool to look at it, but all my mates keep me pretty humble. They'll bring me back down to earth. Whenever I come back to the Gold Coast, they're always ripping into me, saying, you missed this tackle, or you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And
mates are good for that, aren't they?
It's all a bit of a laugh, and I just crack up with them, and I say, I'll be better next time. But they always bring me back to level, and always make sure that I'm humble and respectful about sort of my position and where I sort of come from. So it's pretty good.
It's important to have that. So I guess family as well, just treating you normally, and
exactly.
To them, you I guess to your parents and to your siblings, you're still just the same like you were, whether you're famous playing NRL or not. So that would help massively, I imagine. We mentioned the injury you had before Game 3, and like I mentioned, your hammies, you've had a few. How do you handle that sort of disappointment of getting an injury when you might be at top form, flying, and then get an injury? Like, how do you handle it mentally?
It's still something I'm trying to learn. Like, it's easy saying, like, you got an injury, you'll be sweet, a couple of weeks, you'll be back on the field. But it's something I'm still trying to learn and come to terms with it. And I remember something Christian Welch said. It was after he tore his Achilles, like he ruptured his Achilles in round 1. It was against Parramatta Eels. I think it was 2022 it might have been. And he got interviewed at the airport, and he said, although this injury is really bad, there's a lot of people out there that's doing it a lot tougher. And it sort of resonated with me. I'm thinking to myself, I got a bunged hammy, I got a sore ankle, I got a sore groin, and there's people out there struggling to even live. And it's like
a perspective
thing. And you're like, man, like, for me to complain about a sore hamstring when people are struggling to live, especially during that like COVID period, and
true.
People not being able to see their families, and you're like, I'm complaining here about a hamstring. You just got to try and put it into perspective and understand how lucky you are, and people are doing it a lot tougher than you. So that's sort of how I've tried to look at it. It's still difficult for me to do it.
Definitely, yeah.
It definitely is something I'm still learning to do, but I remember Welchie saying it, and that was a long-term injury, and I've had a couple of short-term injuries, nothing too major, but just seeing the way that he spoke about, and a few other players, how they speak about their injuries, it's pretty cool.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like, it's definitely great to have perspective and things like that, but there's definitely a line to it as well, because I feel like some people get caught up in, people have got it worse, I'm not allowed to be sad.
Exactly.
And there's definitely a line where you're allowed to accept the fact that you are doing it tough and you're struggling, there's something wrong, without letting it get too far. I mean, I sometimes get that with people feel like they can't complain about something to me because have my disability and in a bad position. They're like, I'm not as bad as you, I can't be sad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's good to have that perspective and not let the little things get to you too much, but you're still allowed to accept that sort of negativity, and it's allowed to be okay.
Exactly.
Just don't let it drag on. And so I imagine that's a fine line as well to get with, to have that. Yeah, I mean, it sucks. You do a hammy, it would suck.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
missing out on
Oh, it's
playing,
just
but,
yeah, especially this year. I felt like I was sort of finding my feet a bit with my footy, and it's taken a couple of seasons, but I felt like I was finding a bit of consistency, which I felt like I've lacked in previous seasons. And then when the sort of hammy injuries sort of popped up, it was like, oh man, this kind of sucks. This felt like this was going to be my season to sort of break through, and then sort of takes you back down, and then you build your way up again, and you're like, oh, I'm back playing good footy again. And then I've done another hemi, and I was like, oh man, this kind of sucks. And then I thought I'd be back in 8 weeks. Or 6 weeks, and then ended up being like 10, 11 weeks it took to come back, and it was just like a bit of a stab in the heart. But I felt the emotions. Don't worry about that. When I was at training, I felt bad for some the boys around me. At some days, I just wasn't feeling it, and I was a bit grumpy and not in the right sort of mood to sort of be at training. But I still got through it, and the boys were really good at rallying around and making sure I was doing all right, and just being a presence there for me. Sometimes, some days when I wasn't feeling it, they were there to sort of pick me up.
Having that good support around you, Oh, it's the best thing I got told by a bloke in rehab was he said, let yourself have the bad days, because without them, you can't have the good days.
Yeah.
Like, if you just try to be up all the time, and every day is a good day, every day is just a normal day, then, like, if you let yourself have the bad days, then you can appreciate the good days a bit more too, and just let yourself have them. So, I mean, that's something I've taken massively, and no, that's been great. But, so, back to your NRL career and trajectory, you made the call to go from a big, probably the biggest supported club in the league in the Broncos, and make the move to the Storm, where, like I said, down in Melbourne, AFL dominates. But what made that move happen for you? What brought that on?
I felt like I needed a bit of a change. I felt like my football wasn't at a point where I wanted it to be, and I was in and around family, and I've lived with close by to my family my whole life, and I felt like I needed a bit of a change just to switch something up. And the Storm sort of come to my management team, and they said there's an opportunity to come down to Melbourne, and I felt like Craig Bellamy's been one of the best coaches in the NRL since he started, and I felt like that opportunity to become a better player, but most importantly become a better person as well, was to move down to Melbourne. And they got a really great culture down there about being a good person first and foremost, and then you can be a great player after that. And everyone wants to play with a good person. So that's something that really drew me to the Melbourne Storm Club, and that's something I really wanted to be a part of. And it was a really tough move because I love the Broncos, and they gave me my first opportunity. They developed me when I was younger, and I just really seen a big opportunity for me to become a better person, a better player, moving down to Melbourne, getting out of my comfort zone, which was something really difficult, which I hadn't ever done before in my life, and moving down to Melbourne where it's all AFL and no one knows rugby league, and I felt like I could go about my business without sort of being put in the spotlight and being in the media, and I felt like that was the best place for me, and ended up moving down there, and I feel like I haven't looked back since. It's been a great move for me.
Yeah, you do hear of some players doing that, like the opposite with AFL, where they'll move up north, where they can go out and not be approached as much. So I can definitely appreciate that side of it. But yeah, so what is that culture like at the Storm? Because you hear so much about Bellamy as a coach, and they've been such a strong club for such a long time, just always up there at the top four. They just keep winning. So what is it? What goes on that makes it so strong?
It's just the standards that everyone sets at the club. Everyone's such a great person there, like I said, and everyone works really hard. And there's something about the Storm that I feel like is something that drew me towards it. And I spoke about consistency, and I felt like I was lacking that. I felt like I'd have good games, good games, then a fair few bad games. And I really wanted to be a consistent player, and that's what Belzer sort of spoke to me when I first spoke to him. He said, down at the Melbourne Storm, we expect consistency, we expect you to work hard, and we expect you to be a team player. You put your teammates first, and I felt like that's the player I wanted to be. So I wanted to move down there, and I feel like that's what makes the club so great. And it's a really good culture down there. I feel like you've seen Ryan Pappenhausen, how he's been injured, and Sewer sort of come into the scene, and he's a really good fullback. And it's such a great culture in the fact that Paps helped out Sewer so much, knowing that Sewer can take over Paps's position.
Yeah, true.
But he doesn't care. He knows that the opportunity will come up for Sewer to sort of fill into that position, and we need him to step up. So everyone gives back feedback, and they don't care if they get shoved out of the team and the other person gets put in. It's about a whole squad mentality to win the premiership. It's not just the team, the 17 people that take the field. It's the whole squad it takes to win a premiership, and that's what the club's so big on. And I just love that about it. And we've got some great wingers coming up at the Storm, so scary for me, but it's really cool opportunity for the club to have that next man up mentality. And whenever boys get injured, you've seen people like Grant Anderson and Sewer that's filled my wing position, and those boys has done great jobs. And that's something I feel like that drew me to the club, and that's what makes the culture so good about it.
Yeah, it seems, I mean, from the outside looking in, it does seem like that, and that's why I guess there's been so much success for such a long period of time, whether always good, but it definitely takes a certain type of person and I guess environment to leave your ego at the door, go in team first, and I guess Bellamy seems like someone that does make everyone check their egos at the door and has that approach. I saw, was it Munster on a podcast where you called him and he was trying to get him to come on the podcast or something. He's just like ripping into him, swearing. And that. Is that just him? Is it just normal?
Yeah, that's him. Bells is funny. He's pretty much a father figure to majority of us boys, just because all our families are back up in Queensland or New South Wales or other spots around the world. And we sort of rely on each other when we're down in Melbourne, and we don't have our families, or majority of us don't have our families down there. So we got our father figure in pretty much Belzo, who's down there. So we look to him for a lot of guidance, and he helps us out. And he's just a really good bloke to have around. And what you see on the TV with him spraying you and this and that and into the microphone, spit going everywhere, it's not what you see off the field. He's such a great bloke, and he just helps you out a lot. So
I guess if you set up that off-field, you know it's from a caring point. When you cop that spray, you know it's not a position of anger or disappointment. You know it's coming from a place of where he's trying to make you better or trying to make the team better, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's why no one argues with him either. Like, you could pretty easily snap back at him and say, no, I done this, I done that. Also, I think the boys are pretty scared of it, so they would never do it. But his sprays come from a really good place, and he wants the team to succeed, and he expects high standards, and he'll hold you to those high standards. And it's pretty hard to get a compliment out of Belzer, but he'll give one ever so often, especially to little Harry Grant. He gets a fair few compliments.
He's a golden child.
He's golden child there. But it's good fun being down there and just sort of learning off Belzer. And you've seen what he's done since 2003 at the Storm, and the way that he's handled his business is such a great coach and mentor to have down there.
It's nuts because sporting clubs like AFL, NRL, those type of clubs, it's so much more than a sport to so many people. Like you said, from you players being inside those walls and all the stuff and all that, it's a real family. Like, you have those father figures and supporters on the weekend. Some people, that's their life, is that team, and that's the thing they look forward to on the weekend. And I guess you guys are representing for them, and it's that whole bigger picture. Is that something you guys speak about? The fact there's people that spend their money on memberships, going to games, all that sort of thing, and you're representing them? Yeah. Try to really take pride in that?
Definitely. Well, all our members and supporters down in Melbourne, they've all pretty much been there since day one. Since Olympic Park was the home stadium, and it used to be nicknamed the Graveyard, because whenever you go down to Melbourne, it would be pouring rain, it would be fog everywhere, it would be cold, and it would be just known as the Graveyard. And all the people that went to that first game watching the Melbourne Storm play, they're still coming to the games at Amy Park to this day, which is pretty cool. And, whenever we go out there, we got the supporters behind us, and it's a really cool feeling. And it's all AFL down there, but all the AFL sort of teams get around the Melbourne Storm.
Oh, that's cool.
A lot of the Bulldogs boys and the Melbourne Demons boys, they come to the games and support us. And it's really cool to have the AFL teams backing us, because we're the only team in sort of Melbourne. So, it's pretty cool to be down there and have such a really good, loyal fan base down there supporting us. Yeah, no,
that's so sick. When you left from the Broncos, I've always wondered this with NRL, because it was, I think, early in the season you announced the following year going to the Storm. How does that go on behind closed doors? Like, the teammates, the coaches of the Broncos, when they know you're leaving? Yeah. What are the conversations how does that get handled?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I remember I sort of told the Melbourne Storm, it was before I played North Queensland Cowboys, we were up in Townsville, and it was like before the game, I knew I already signed with the Melbourne Storm, and I had to let the team know. So I ended up playing the game. We ended up finishing the game. We went back to the hotel, and my manager sort of told me, you can sort of let me sort of handle things and let me tell people, or you can do it yourself. And I thought it was best for me to let everyone know and let them hear it from my sort of perspective. And I sort of went and spoke to the coach first, spoke to Kevin, and I said, look, I'm looking to go in another direction here. I appreciate everything you've done for me. You've helped me out so much, but I feel like the move down to Melbourne will be the best thing for me. And he said, no, that's all good. Like, everything was all handled. It was all sweet. And then the toughest part was sort of, I feel like, letting all the boys know and all my closest mates know that I'm leaving and I'm not going to be a part of the team anymore, because you build up so many relationships within the team and so many great friendships. When you feel like you've signed with another club, you feel like you've sort of torn that all up.
Yeah.
And you just feel really like hollow in the heart.
Yeah.
But I ended up telling the boys, I put it out in a WhatsApp group and I said, I'm still going to be here tomorrow, like when we wake up, and come and see me, and I'll speak to all the boys. And all the boys were really good about it. I went and spoke to pretty much the whole team, and everyone was really, really good, and come and see how I was doing and mentally how I was doing, and everything was all sweet. But it was definitely tough letting the boys know, because that's where I started my journey, was at the Broncos, and spent so many years there developing and trekking up from the Gold Coast to Brizzy, then to move into Brizzy. That's all I sort of knew. So moving to another sort of territory down in Melbourne, it was something very foreign for me, but something really cool in the aspect that it was out of my comfort zone and trying something new to try to be a better player and a better person.
That's awesome that everyone understands as well, because like from the outside, it seems like such a weird sort of way to do it.
Yeah,
like
it definitely is.
Yeah, when you can in the off season do it like other sports do, but something pretty unique, I guess.
Yeah, it was at the start of the year, so it was pretty tough playing throughout the
year.
whole year, and everyone knows you're sort of going, but the whole club was good about it.
And does it ever happen where, like, I don't know, if there is a young bloke coming in your position, if you're not in a position where the team's going to win the premiership, does it ever like think, oh well, he's leaving next year, we'll play this young guy instead of him?
Yeah, you can get that. It's definitely the sort of thing some clubs would probably do, just more in the aspect that they see a long-term development with that player, because they know they're going to be at the club, whereas the other player's leaving. And I feel like clubs won't do that if they're heading into finals.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to make finals, it's probably the right thing to do, which is let like the younger player get a bit of game time, get a bit of experience leading into their next pre-season, where they can use that sort of experience they gain from the games into pre-season, into the following season. But yeah, I feel like clubs won't do it if they're heading into finals. But if they're not making finals, then I feel like you get the flick, and then the next sort of player will come through and get a bit more experience, which is fair enough.
I guess it's just a risky take, isn't it, when you announce that and you're moving? But I mean, it all worked out for you, so it's
exactly.
Going back a little bit to 2019, like you said, you played for Papua New Guinea. You then, since then, have also played for Australia. Was it tough to make that call, to make the switch?
Yeah. It was definitely tough, and I copped a fair bit of backlash from it, to be fair, which I still got to learn how to deal with social media. I know I speak about it a lot, how you just got to block it out. And a lot of people say you just got to block it out, but
easier said than done.
Easier said than done. It's pretty tough, because social media is just a massive thing these days. And you got the newspapers, you got the press conferences that are sort of all out there, and really tough for myself, just in the fact that I was copping so much love from the PNG community, and all of a sudden then I'm copping so much hate from them. But at the same time, I was seeing an opportunity to represent my dad's side of the family. I grew up on the Gold Coast, grew up in Palm Beach, went to school in Burleigh, played my junior footy at Currumbin Eagles. My old man's Australian, full-blooded Aussie. I'm half Australian as well, so that's my other side of the culture, and I thought it was a great opportunity to represent that. And as soon as I hit the field, we linked arms and we looked into the crowd, and I seen my old man in the crowd. He was crying, and I knew I made the right choice. I said, representing my dad for the first time in my life, I said, yeah, that's something pretty cool. And I got that opportunity to represent my mum's side back in 2019. I remember linking arms and looking into the crowd and seeing my mum cry. So I got both of those sort of perspectives, looking at my dad and looking at my mum. And I know I'm happy in myself that I've got to represent both sides of my family. And no matter what people say, I know what kind of person I am. I know I don't have to please other people. And I'm happy with the choice I made.
That's the thing. Once you get the chance to, obviously, I get the chance to ask you and hear that explanation. And as soon as you hear that, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Of course. But obviously, like you said, everyone on social media, everyone has an opinion.
Exactly.
Now, which everyone has, but back then, not everyone used to have to listen to that opinion.
Nah.
Now with social media, everyone can get it out there, and you just got to cop it. So, I mean, like you said, you did get a fair bit of backlash for it.
Yeah.
So other than just like, oh, block it out, how do you handle that backlash with social media, or just whichever way it comes?
I just feel like having a good support network around you. Yeah. I had a really good teammate, Harry Grant, who was always checking up on me. He even went out into the press conference and spoke out about me choosing to play for Australia, and even explained to all the fans why I chose to play for Australia, which was really cool. He had my back, and Mal Meninga went out in the press conference, our coach. He even spoke about it as well. So I knew that I had a really good support network around me. My family was there supporting me as well and let me know that I've made the right decision. This is your career. You don't need to do what anyone else tells you to do. So I think it's just all about sort of being in the right sort of environment and having the right people around you to help you and guide you. And sometimes you might sort of lose your way, but they'll always be there to help guide you back on the right path. And I feel like I've got a really good support network around me with friends, family, and even teammates like Harry Grant, who's there to always help me.
I think it's such a big thing in life as well, just to try to block out what other people think about you and care about. Because, I mean, that's something I'm actively trying to get better at, is just not care. And you see it, the people that don't care, even if they're to you, you're like, that's a little bit weird, I'd never do that. But they just don't care and they do it, and you respect it.
It's a pretty cool thing to have.
It is, isn't it?
It's tough to do.
Yeah, definitely. As you get older, I feel like you learn to appreciate it a lot more. And so, I mean, in life, in sport, whatever it might be, to try to block that out. Like I said, it's definitely difficult at times, especially if you're the focus of social media and copping it and in the public eye. It would definitely be hard.
Yeah,
but do you work at club level or at any representative level with mindset coaches and things like that? Are they a thing as well in NRL?
Yeah, they definitely are. We get them to come in. It's usually in pre-season, and we get certain people coming in and speaking to us about it. But it's been a massive sort of push for it these last couple of seasons, just because of the sort of mental health issues that have sort of come about and people speaking up about it. And it never was a big thing back in the day. No one used to speak up about mental health, especially men's mental health. And it's such a massive, I feel like, issue that hasn't been sort of spoken about enough, and players are now speaking up about it and using platforms like podcasts, like what you're doing here at the moment, to sort of speak up about it. And we have people come down to the clubs and sort of speak to us about it, but I think it's really good that it's player driven and people are standing up and having a say about it and actually getting it out there and sort of saying it ain't weak to speak. And I think that's something really cool that's sort of taking a stand now these days.
Such a good lesson, isn't it? Because like you said, men's mental health in particular, there's been a lot of good movement for it, but there's still a long way to go, obviously.
Definitely.
So do you feel like a bit of a responsibility to use your platform to push messages like that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we got the opportunity to do it. And like, we speak about the negatives about social media, but that's also the positives that we can bring.
There is a lot of positives.
There's a lot of positives that you can bring within your social media platform. And I feel like the boys are doing a really good job, whether that's the mental health push or even promoting charities and getting good word out there. And players are doing such a great job of it these days. And it's something that we can still do a lot more of. But I think we're all starting to learn the impact that social media can have and the way that we can use it positively for the sort of community around us.
Yeah, if it's used in the right way, it can be a really powerful tool. Because, as I said, everyone's on it, everyone's looking at it. So if it's used in the right way, it can be really good. Back to on-field, I guess we spoke a little bit earlier. You're known for those high-flying finishes in the corner and all those things. But you have had a couple close calls. One time you came down on your neck pretty awkwardly.
Yeah.
And were off for a little bit.
Yeah.
Has that changed your approach to the way you go about things, or you just think that was an unlucky one and you just go on again?
Yeah, no, that was a bit of an unlucky one. The boys actually sprayed me at Broncos. They said, you should just put the ball down normally, stop trying to do these spectacular tries. But I thought it was pretty funny. I was just, whenever you go to score those tries, you have so much adrenaline that you think, I just got to get the ball down no matter however I get it down.
Yep.
And whatever happens after happens. But there's ways that you can train to sort of prevent those things from happening now. And I practice it a fair bit after trainings to sort of get the pads out, and I'll sort of dive in the corner and make sure my body's landing in a certain way where I don't get injured, and so that when it happens in games, I'm not injuring my neck like I did back at the Broncos, because that hurt like hell.
Yeah,
coming off the field and I was so dizzy and my neck was stiff, and I ended up going to the hospital to get scans, but everything was all sweet and I had all this graze over my eye. And I feel like I'm better with it now, but back then that one hurt. I remember I think it was Clint Gutherson that come across and he smacked my arm, and usually I like place my hand down and roll over.
Oh, right.
He took my arm out, and then I was like, oh no, where's
on
my arm going to go? And I went bonk on the face and concussion, and I was like, oh man, that hurts.
Oh shit.
But there's definitely ways that I practice now to sort of stop that from happening.
Yeah, right. Actually, touched on it then, concussion in the NRL, obviously massive issue now as well.
Yeah.
Is that, what's spoken about that? Like, is there ever, because I mean, it is still to an extent an invisible sort of thing where I'm guessing if you wanted to, you could lie about if you got a headache or not. Are the boys all pretty good and you speak about, like, don't try to be tough and push through it? Like, you try to be honest with it?
Yeah, well, we at every club you have a club doctor, and our one at the Melbourne Storm, he definitely pushes for you not to try to be a tough man and make sure you speak up about it, because he always says your life's more important than just 80 minutes of footy on a rugby league sort of field, and you've got more to life than just your career in rugby league. You've got a life after footy, and you've got to make sure you protect that. And if you're not feeling right in the head, if you've had a head knock, make sure you speak up about it, because the more you get it, and the more you try to be a tough guy, the more it's going to affect you later on in life. And we have really good people down there that tell us not to be tough people and speak up about it. And I'm sure that's the same at every other NRL club these days. But I remember, there were stories about back in the day when blokes used to get knocked out pretty much and get back up and just keep playing. And I think it comes back to bite them in the backside a bit later on in their life. But there were some great players, but also it's just about being smart and trying to give you a bit more longevity in your life.
Definitely. It's one of those things as well, though, once you get the competitiveness comes out and you don't want to let the boys down, you want to get back
exactly.
out.
That's the main one, not letting your teammates down, but
try to stay present and be like, look, bigger picture.
Exactly.
And just try to drill it into you. But I mean, it's one of those things as well, isn't it? Men still sort of get taught be tough and don't speak up about your injuries. But no, it's good there's so much active sort of discussion going on about it to let the boys know, there's no need to push through. Like, you're okay. I actually had someone on this podcast a while ago. Max Lynch played for Hawthorn.
Yep.
He's only 25, I think, and had to retire because of concussions just over and over. And he said he sort of knew it was time to call it, but you sort of had to make that call because there is so much more research coming out about it now and how bad it can be.
It'd be tough to come to sort of that realization that you have to retire, especially at that age. It'd be really young. Tough, because that's sort of probably all you knew is probably playing AFL or playing NRL, especially myself. It's hard to sort of look at like a time after footy, but you got to sort of find out ways that you can sort of get back into the community and find an impact in another sort of role. But it would definitely be tough for that fella there.
Yeah, no, it's good. To have those other avenues too. How do you handle, I guess we spoke a little bit about like the celebrations after Origin and things like that. How do you handle when, you see obviously so many professional athletes in all sports getting in trouble off field for drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be? How do you handle those situations where there might be a bit of trouble around, or not necessarily trouble around, but just when other blokes might get in trouble or something like that? How do you handle those situations?
Well, I think I just put myself into perspective. Like when I was younger, and I used to look up at sort of people, look at my role models. I used to see what they were doing, and I know if I find myself in a situation that's bad, I think to myself, what would the kids think if I had done this, or what would happen to the kids' sort of perspective of me if I went and done this stupid thing, this one-time thing where I might be drunk and it'll be all fun and games if I went and done this. I just always think in my head, you want to be the best possible role model for the kids growing up, and one little slip up can sort of change that perspective. And I always want to be a really good role model for the kids coming through and letting them sort of see my journey coming through, and I want them to follow in my sort of footsteps and follow through my sort of philosophies I have in life. And I feel like if I'd done a stupid thing like that, I sort of have to come to a realization and think, what would the kids think about that? So I want to be the best possible role model. So that's probably what would keep me away from those situations.
Like you said, those guys running around the backyard now saying your name and doing that. Yeah, just that bigger picture of things. I mean, it's a really good active mindset to have, because I mean, it's so easy for people to get caught up in that situation, especially if you're in the limelight and that sort of thing. And then, like I said, social media, it doesn't take much to someone to whip out a phone. And so no, it would be a dangerous situation. But good to try to avoid that at all costs, obviously. Last couple I got for you. So obviously you have the PNG background. It's just been announced they've got a team coming in the NRL soon. Tell me now, are you leaving Storm to go to... No,
I'm joking. No.
But like them coming in, that'd be something that proud for them, for you as a PNG man, to have them coming in, and is that something that's spoken about amongst players, like as an option to go over there and play?
It's always like the topic of interest around the boys, sort of speaking about it. But to be honest, I don't know much about like the politics around building an NRL club, but I know I have roots and ties to Papua New Guinea, and I was born there, and I think it's pretty cool that they get their own rugby league team, because that's their national sport, is rugby league. They're the only country in the world that have the national sport of rugby league as their main sport. So I think it's really cool in that aspect. But I don't know the whole logistics about building an NRL club, and I don't know how it's all sort of run. So I feel like I can't say too much about it, but I think it'll definitely be pretty cool for the PNG community to have a team to sort of back, because I know they back the PNG Kummels pretty heavily, and I know having an NRL team up there would mean a lot to them. But I don't know the whole logistics about the whole sort of building an NRL team, but I think it would be pretty cool for the community.
I think I heard something about you don't pay income tax there or something, so that could be a good ploy for
it's pretty crazy.
Some of the boys to go there.
Yeah, if that's the full story.
Might have everyone fighting to go play for PNG. We spoke a little bit about it as well. So obviously you're still in the height of your career at the moment, but you're sort of looking towards that future, need a plan for something after footy. Do you have any ideas what you want to sort of look to do?
I've been going back and forth between uni, studying Bachelor of Education, so I've been doing a little bit of teaching, but I'm only doing sort of one subject here and there, just trying to tick off the boxes, so it's going to take ages for me to finish. I'm still unsure on what I want to do, and I speak to my dad about it a lot, and I speak to other sort of family members about it a lot, and I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I feel like, in a sense, I want to help people, and that's why I was probably sort of leaning towards teaching. And I had such great teachers coming through Marymount College, which was the school I went to, and one of the teachers was Matt Geyer, who was my junior footy coach at the Currumbin Eagles, who played at the Melbourne Storm, and he had such a massissive impact on my sort of football career, but also just being a good person first and foremost, which is sort of what the Melbourne Storm always speak about. But I think just trying to help people, and hopefully there's an avenue that pops up after footy where I can go down that, whether that's helping with development sort of coming through with the kids coming through, or whether that's being a teacher and finishing off my degree. But I think what I want to do after footy is some sort of job where I can help people and sort of put them on the right path, and just help out wherever I can. Have
an impact on people's lives. That's an awesome outlook to have, just as something to want to help, and at least have an eye to the future a little bit too, because as I say, even like a playing career is so short in the big scheme of life. Like, you do need that, unless you just invest really well. I
think I've got a couple more years to do that. I'm a winger. The salary's not very good.
No, that's sick. And what about advice for any young kid coming through that might be looking to make it to the NRL or any professional sport? What advice would you have for them?
Just from my own experience, I think just have fun. I think first and foremost, have fun and just enjoy playing with your mates, playing a sport or whatever you choose to do. Just don't put too much pressure on yourself. I feel like that's what kids do these days, and parents and family members around them, they put so much pressure on them to become the next big thing that all of a sudden they just build them up, and then they'll just crash and just lose an interest for it. Find your own interest, have fun with it. You can also work hard while doing it. Like, you can be disciplined, you can go and do your extras, you can train, but just make sure you have fun, and make sure you have a childhood where you can look back on and think, man, that was such a good childhood. I had so much fun doing that. I feel like that's what I had when I was growing up. I feel like just playing that 1 year of footy when I had fun and I just enjoyed playing with my mates, going playing school footy, not putting any pressure on myself to make a rep team or this and that. That was the year that changed my life, and I ended up making it into the NRL after that. So I think don't put too much pressure on yourself. You can still work hard. You can still be disciplined. You can still do all the right things, but make sure you have a childhood.
I reckon it's a great advice to give to anyone through sport. If you fall out of love with anything, there's no point doing it anyway.
Exactly.
So if you don't love what you're doing, there's no point doing it.
Yeah.
But, no, mate, thanks. That was awesome to get that exclusive that you're leaving Storm to PNG. No, that was awesome. Thanks for coming on and having a chat. Could have asked you a million more questions, but
no, that's all good. Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming on, mate. Cheers.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, there we go. Great chat with Xavier Coates, a very level-headed athlete for someone so high up in his stature. It's great to hear some of the techniques he tries to stay present with and tries to really use his platform to have an impact on young kids. So that was amazing to hear about, and just the way he handled those tough situations about moving from clubs and from representing PNG to them representing Australia. Wouldn't have been an easy time for him, but the way that he was able to handle them and stay level-handed was really impressive to hear about. But if this episode or any of the episodes have brought up any adverse feelings for you, please reach out to Lifeline on 13 11 14. Remember to check in on each other, and that it ain't weak to speak. Check out the Instagram page at chatsfromachair_podcast. You can see who I've had on before, who I've got coming on coming up, and hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you'll be notified of the next episode coming out. And I'll see you back here next time. Thanks.